Lots to get through this week. That'll serve me right for being ill. Yes, welcome along to this week's Women's Football Chat, the show dedicated to the FAWNL. That's the third and fourth tiers of women's football here in England. My name is Chris Gadsby. We're here every Thursday at 6 p.m, bringing you the very latest from the six divisions of the FAWNL. My apologies for not having a show last week. I was still recovering from a chest infection and would just not be able to present the show without coughing every couple of sentences, and then it would have been so difficult to edit and probably not done my voice or me any good whatsoever. But what that means is, because it was County Cup last weekend, there wasn't a huge amount going on. We are able to cover 2 weeks worth in this week's show. We're going to kick off though with the important bit of news that came out in the last couple of weeks. And this is the new structure for the FAWNL board. Several changes confirmed following a general meeting with the clubs at the end of last year. So, due to the changing responsibilities of the FAWNL board, Sue Hu, who also sits on the FA board, has assumed the role of chair. Baroness Sue Campbell remains in her position on the board, with Elaine Oram, the CEO of Nottinghamshire FA and member of the Women's Football Board, taking the additional FA representative position. So that means we have 12 members of the board now. Sue Hoff, who the chairman of the board, says it's a huge exciting time for the Women's National League, and our 3-year strategy is making great progress to ensure the advancements we are seeing across the elite end of the women's game are also harnessed throughout tiers 3 and 4 of the pyramid. Delighted to be the new chair of the board and to have the opportunity to work alongside so many experienced people, bring with them a wealth of knowledge from across the game. The board's ambition is to have a flourishing league where the clubs can perform to the best of their ability on and off the pitch, and they look forward to working collaboratively with the wider team to drive the FA Women's National League forward in this exciting new era. So we've got 3 FA representatives, one of which is also the chair. We've got 6 club representatives and 3 independents on the FAWNL board. So it'll be interesting to see over the course of the coming years what the board decides to implement and what changes they may bring to the FAWNL. But that really is the big piece of news from the last couple of weeks regarding the FAWNL. So let's crack straight on with all of the results then that we've got to go for. As I said, we've got 2 weeks worth, including some really important ones in the Women's FA Cup. We're going to have a look at that first rather than the league fixtures, because it is the oldest of the information we've got to go through. Derby County hosting Super League side Leicester City, unfortunately losing by 4-0. Southampton beat Sunderland 2-0 away from home. Burnley, after extra time, lost to Birmingham City, but there's no information about that game on full time. London City Lionesses beating Moneyfields by 4-0. Heroic performance from Moneyfields, unfortunately coming up just short, but a very strong showing from them. Tottenham Hotspur 3, Sheffield United 2, Chelsea 3, West Ham 1, Crystal Palace 3, Blackburn Rovers 1, and then the first big one of the weekend. Reading 1, Wolves 2, with a very late winner for Wolves. Beth Merrick had equalised for Wolves in the 71st minute after Reading scored in the first half, and then Destiny Toussignon in the 88th minute put Wolves in front, and they become the lowest ranked side remaining in the competition after their 2-1 victory over Reading. Arsenal 5, Watford 1, Luton Town of Tier 5 0, Brighton Hove Albion 6. Convincing victory for Nottingham Forest in the all FAWNL tie. A 6-1 victory away at Plymouth Argyle. Goals in this one for Forest. Scored by Luan Worsley in the 16th minute and the 45th +2 minute. Holly Jade Manders in the 49th, Sophie Domingo in the 57th, May Moncaster 75th, Molly Green 78th, Plymouth getting a consolation goal through Jade Barrow in the 89th minute, but Forest through as well, so 2 FAWNL sides in the fifth round of the FA Cup. Ipswich Town coming up short against Charlton Athletic, 4-1. Charlton the victors in that one. Sophie Peskett with the goal for Ipswich Town. Bristol City 0, Liverpool 1, Durham 0, Manchester City 4, Manchester United 5, Newcastle United 0, so convincing victory for the Super League side, and Aston Villa 0, Everton 3. So 2 FAWNL sides in the fifth round of the Women's FA Cup. Wolves have got a tie against Brighton Hove Albion of the Super League, and Forest take on Everton again of the Super League. So difficult for both of those sides. However, they have netted a lot of money from the FA Cup so far this season. They have both secured £103,000 so far, with a guaranteed £20,000 even if they lose in the fifth round, £80,000 if they're able to topple the Super League side. So Wolves, the lowest ranked side remaining in the competition. They're down at the moment in 5th in the Northern Premier Division. We'll have a look at that in a moment. Forest up in 3rd in that, but great showing from both of those sides. Wolves in particular knocking out higher tier opposition in the form of Reading. And they both will certainly give it a very, very good go in the fifth round. Right, let's have a look then at the league results. We'll start in the Northern Premier Division. Not a lot going on in the Northern Prem because there were 5 Northern Premier Division ties in the FA Cup, which meant that there was only one game last weekend, and then with it being County Cup, it then meant that there was barely any games this weekend either. So it was actually a very good week for me to get ill. West Bromwich Albion 0, Liverpool Feds 2 last weekend. Paige Cole 43rd minute and Bethany Donoghue in the 86th. And then this weekend, Derby County 2, Stourbridge 0. An own goal on the half-hour mark, and then one for Isabel Sheridan in the 82nd minute meant Derby get of important 3 points in the mid-table battle. But the battle towards the top, Nottingham Forest going away to Newcastle and winning Newcastle's first defeat in the league this season. Even though they took the lead 4 minutes in through Georgia Gibson, Forest fought back. Alice Keatley in the 30th minute, 1-1 at half-time, and then Neve Reynolds in the 90th minute, popping up with the winner for Forest, which means they close the gap at the top. And if we have a look at the Northern Premier Division table, yes, Newcastle still out in front, but it is going to be closing up somewhat. If we just have a look at the mid-table then, so with West Brom losing to Liverpool Feds, they stay in 9th down towards the bottom. Liverpool Feds have leapfrogged Wolves, but Wolves have got 3 games in hand. Derby up a couple of places after beating Stourbridge, and Stoke drop a place despite having not played. But if you look then towards the top, Newcastle first, 31 points from 12 games. Burnley second, 26 points from 10 games. Forest third, 24 points from 11 games. So if you take into account, say, Forest's game in hand over Newcastle, if they were to win that, that brings that gap down to 4 points. Burnley could go 1 point in front of Newcastle with that, so it could be 5 points between those top 3 sides. Again, don't discount Wolves. Yes, they're 15 points back at the moment, but they've got 3 games in hand, and they've still got to play Newcastle twice, and they've got to face Forest again. So these sides have still got to play each other. Forest this weekend have got Burnley. If they're able to win that game, it really drags Forest back into the title conversation, whereas a few weeks ago they were on the periphery looking in, and it was looking as though they might not be a part of it this season. But that away victory against Newcastle has really brought them back in, and if they can follow that up with a victory over Burnley, I said in my Christmas article that January was going to be the defining month for Forest, and if they can finish the month off with a victory against Burnley, then they really are in the conversation. Wolves, they're down in 5th at the moment, but having only played 9 games, they've got an awful lot to play in the second half of the season, and they will get themselves back into that conversation, I have no doubt. If they win both their games in hand over Forest, then that puts them on 22. And yes, they're still on the tails of the teams above them. But as I said, with 2 games against Newcastle coming up, another one against Forest as well, then they're certainly not out of the conversation yet by any means. Let's have a look at the Southern Premier Division. A few more games to talk about in this one. Obviously, because we are covering 2 weeks, some teams do come up twice. Billericay Town 4, London Bees 2 then. Goals in this one for Billericay, 1 for Leanne Bell, 1 for Maddie Biggs and 2 for Ruby Seeley. For London Bees, it's 1 for Ava Hunterodds in the 22nd minute, 1 for Francesca Tilbury in the 68th. The London Bees still struggling this season. Oxford beating Chatham Town by 3 goals to 2. This is despite them going behind at half time. Breon Grant and Lottie Sharp with the goals for Chatham Town, but a hat-trick for Zoe Barrett in the second half. In fact, a 9-minute hat-trick, 53rd, 56th and 62nd minute, turned it around for Oxford, gave them the 3 points. Important game at the top, and it's Portsmouth that come out on top over Hashtag United, despite the fact Hashtag took the lead early on. Macy Nichols in the 6th minute. They held on to that until half-time. That Nicole Barrett and Emma Jones, 50th and 63rd minute respectively, meant Portsmouth take all 3 points, really put themselves in the driving seat in the Southern Premier Division. Rugby Borough winning at home to Cardiff by 3 goals to 0. Katie Morris in added time at the end of the first half. Angelina Nixon in the 50th and Lily Greenslade in the 57th minute. Then we get into last weekend. London Bees 1, Ipswich Town 6. Goals in this one to Kayla Potter in the for London Bees. 2 for Ruby Doe, 1 for Leah Mitchell, 1 for Natasha Thomas, Leanna Williams and Maria Boswell for Ipswich Town. And then Cheltenham Town 2, Plymouth Argyle 3. So Emily Owen in the 27th minute had put Cheltenham Town in front, but then Fern Orchard in the 46th minute equalised pretty much immediately in the second half for Plymouth Argyle. Then they then take the lead for a brace from Charlotte Whitmore to make it 3-1 before Phoebe Poole gets one back 15 minutes from time for Cheltenham, but they're unable to find an equaliser, and it finishes 3-2 to Plymouth Argyle. What that means for the Southern table, not a huge amount of movement. However, Portsmouth moved to the top thanks to their vastly better goal difference than Hashtag United, and they have 2 games in hand, so they are looking in a very strong position in the Southern Premier Division this season. Rugby Borough are in 3rd, they're 6 points back, but they've also played a game more than Portsmouth. Ipswich, Oxford, both on 22. If they were to win their game in hand, they've got over Portsmouth, they would still be 8 points back. It's looking very unlikely for them. It feels like it's a 2-horse race between Portsmouth and Hashtag United, but Portsmouth certainly have the upper hand at the moment. No movement elsewhere except down towards the bottom. Plymouth Argyle's victory over Cheltenham means they are now up a place over Cardiff City, but Cardiff still 5 points clear of the bottom 2 and with a game in hand, as Plymouth Argyle also have. So that gap is starting to look a bit more troublesome, particularly for London Bees, who have got to win 3 games to close that gap. Chatham Town need to win 2. and it is starting to look now, particularly with the inferior goal difference as well, as though those two sides may well be in Tier 4 next season. But still an awful lot to play for. We've got Cup quarter-finals this weekend. But other than that, with the vast majority of teams out of the FA Cup now, County Cups getting down to semi-finals and finals, and they have obviously their specific weekends anyway. We are pretty much league all the way now, and these games will start coming relatively thick and fast. There are some teams, like #United, for example, out of the FA Cup, where they've only got 8 league games to play. #'s not a great example because they're still in the League Cup. There were other teams I was looking at on my board earlier on this week where they've played 14 games and they're out of all the cup competitions, and now they've only got 8 games to play over the course of the next 12, 13 weeks. So they've got a lot of weeks off because they just haven't been hampered by the weather. On the whole, really, this year, the league hasn't been hampered too much by the weather. We had, in particularly last year, weeks and weeks where there was barely anything on. Whereas this year, we've done okay this year. Teams on the whole have been getting games played, and we're not having to cram midweek after midweek after midweek after midweek to try and get them in. There's only 2 more scheduled midweeks for the rest of the season. Right, Division 1 Midlands then. Plenty to talk about here. Leafield Athletic 0, Boldmere St Michael's 3. Good victory for Boldmere away at Leafield Athletic. Goals in this one. Hayley Sutton in the 55th minute, following on from Anna Wilcox in the 20th, and Libby Jo Stokes in the 61st. Lincoln and Leek share a 1-1 draw. Lincoln finishing with 10. In this one, Lucy Farrow in the 47th minute had put them in front. Cassie Hyde, 5 minutes from time, equalising for Leek Town. Important 3 points for Loughborough Lightning away at Northampton Town. Zina Delgin in the 68th minute with the only goal of the game for Loughborough. And an important victory for Sheffield against Notts County as well. Matilda Hallis-Potts in the 9th minute put Sheffield in front, and they were able to hold on for the entirety of the rest of the game to get 3 points. Sporting Cowser, convincing really, against Solihull Moors. Olivia Stubbs in the 7th minute, Laura Smith in the 42nd. 2 in added time at the end of the first half. Laura Cooper and Leonie Joyce meant it was 4-0 by half time, and the game was pretty much done. Ruth Graham just added 1 in the 65th minute. Sutton Coldfield Town 0, Peterborough United 2, Tara Kirk in the 77th minute, Frankie Pym in the 80th. So 2 late goals for Peterborough against Sutton Coldfield Town, but they get the win nonetheless. And then only 1 game from the weekend just gone. Notts County 0, Sutton Coldfield Town 0. What it means then for the table is the only movement is at the bottom, and I said how important that victory for Sheffield over Notts County has proven to be. They're now just 2 points away from safety, and they've got 2 games in hand over Notts County. So really important victory that was for Sheffield. Just above that drop zone then, Lincoln City and Leek Town, they shared the points when they played last week, so just 1 more each for them. But it definitely looks slightly more challenging for Notts County now if Sheffield can get something from those games in hand. Towards the top, victory for Loughborough Lightning, victory for Boldmere St Michael's, victory for Peterborough United, and victory for Sporting Cowser. Means that it's all still the same at the top, with those top 4 still very much in the conversation. They all are. Peterborough United with 1 game in hand. If they win that, they go to 27. Sporting Cowser with 2 in hand. If they win both of those, they go to 28. And then you've got the top 4 teams fighting out for that spot in the Northern Premier Division, separated by just 2 points as we hit the halfway stage. So very important back end of the season we're going to have between those sides. And then we're going to move through then to Division 1 North. Results in this one, plenty to go through. Barnsley 0, Durham Cestra 3. Bit of a shock result in this one. Alicia Clark Mainwaring in the 25th and the 33rd minute. And then Ella Rowell in the 36th minute. So all the goals coming in the first half there for Durham Cestra. Chorley 1, Norton Stockton Ancients 5. Goals in this one. Erin Boyle in the 16th minute, Bianca Owens getting a hat-trick, 18th, 45 plus 1 and 80th. And Maddie Myers in the 27th minute. Rachel Davison getting one in the second half for Chorley. Doncaster Rovers Bells 2, Stockport County 2. 2 late goals for Stockport County. Doncaster Rovers Bells, Phoebe Snedden and Jasmine Saxton with their goals. But Kenzie Bentley for Stockport, 86th and 89th minute, meant that there was a point shared for both Doncaster and Stockport. FC United of Manchester 0, York City 0. So not really a huge amount to say about that game. Hull City 4, Chester Street Town 0. Ellis Jackman in the 16th minute, Eddie Tanser in the 74th, Rachel Ackroyd 77, and Helen Linsky in the 85th. So really, those last 20 minutes or so proving to be the difference between those two sides. Middlesbrough 3, Leeds United 1. Sarah Byrne, Lauren Robson and Jessica Metz with the goals for Middlesbrough. Leeds just with 1. Jessica Resu in the 21st minute. Then we move through into the weekend just gone, where Durham Cestra beat Chorley by 2 goals to 0. Leanna Giles in the 69th and the 90th minute. Stockport County 1, Middlesbrough 3, the only other game taking place this weekend. Stockport with their goal early on, Francesca Davis in the 5th minute. They held on to that until half time, but Middlesbrough in the second half, Nicole Havery, Lauren Robson and Jessica Met with the goals for Middlesbrough. What that means then for the league table in Division 1 North, Middlesbrough up to second place and level on points with Barnsley, although they have played 2 games more. Hull City drop a place. They remain just 3 points behind Barnsley after Barnsley lost to Durham Cestra by 3 goals to 0 the week before. Durham themselves, after 6 points in the last 2 weeks, have moved themselves up 2 places to 4th. They are 6 points away from the top of the table now, and certainly seem to be finding the form that had them towards the top last season. Leeds United down a couple of places as well. Norton Stockton Ancients up 1, York City down 1. FC United of Manchester off the bottom of the table with their draw against York City. The gap 3 points now, but York City do still have 2 games in hand. Moving through then into Division 1 South East, AFC Wimbledon 5, AFC Sudbury 3. Great game down at Rains Park between these two. So it was Wimbledon that opened the scoring early on. Ashley Hinks in the 9th minute. She would go on to complete a hat-trick in the 82nd and the 84th. Ashley Goddard in the 58th and Eleanor Dorey in the 90th with the goals for Wimbledon. So 3 goals for Wimbledon in the final 10 minutes of the game. AFC Sudbury with Leonie Besant scoring either for his only and a Wimbledon own goal. So not often that you score 3 and end up on the wrong side of the result, but it happened to Sudbury there. Ashford Town 0, Actonians 3. Tori Sinclair in the first minute opened the scoring for Actonians here and then doubled their advantage and her tally for the afternoon in the 30th. Rochelle Shakes in the 55th minute with 1 in the second half. Actonians then comfortable victors in the end. Very important 3 points for Chesham United. A 6-2 away victory against Cambridge City. A hat-trick for Natalia Mikowska in this one. But it was Kate Bowers who got Chesham's first in the 4th minute. Then Mikowska in the 26th, 55th and 63rd minute. Gemma Fraser in the 34th and Sasha Smith in the 50th. So 6 goals for Chesham. Megan Edwards and Rebecca Stevenson with the goals for Cambridge City. But they end up with nothing to show for their efforts in that afternoon. Abandoned between Cambridge United and Norwich City. This is due to a bad injury to a player. So that game will be replayed. Haywards Heath Town 0, Queen's Park Rangers 4, Emily Hill, Ellie Seal, Grace Stanley and Courtney Ward Chambers with the goals for Queen's Park Rangers, and a goal for Worthing, enough from Shannon Albury to see them past London Seawood, Worthing winning by a goal to 0. What that means then for the table in Division 1 South East, Worthing up to second but 5 points behind Wimbledon. Norwich drop a place, but because their game was abandoned, obviously that goes down as them not having played. So they are 6 points behind Wimbledon, but with 2 games in hand now. Queen's Park Rangers remain fourth on 24 points, 9 points off the pace after their victory over Haywards Heath Town. Only other movement in the division, Actonians up a place over London Seaward after their victory in London Seaward's defeat. Actonians now 11 points clear of the drop. That will do it for Actonians, and London Seaward probably 9 points clear of the drop. They're probably safe as well. Chesham United, though, have done themselves a world of good, beating Cambridge City by 6 goals to 2. They're now 3 points clear of the drop and have a better goal difference than both Sudbury and Cambridge City below them. Haywards Heath Town remain just 1 win away from safety, but it is still looking as though it's going to be 2 from those 4, even though Chesham United, not safe yet by any means, have done themselves a world of good already by getting that victory over Cambridge City. Cambridge City with 9 games to go. So out of curiosity, if anyone is interested, although I doubt they are, Wimbledon officially, because of Cambridge City having 9 games to go, AFC Wimbledon now can't get relegated. But yeah, they were never going to, were they, top of the table? But just one of those random facts that has come to me during the course of doing this show, which is why sometimes it's a bit of a ramble and a bit of nonsense. Division 1 South West then. So 5 games to talk about over the course of the 2 weeks here. And it's all kind of very much the same towards the top. AFC Bournemouth beating Swindon Town by 3 goals to 0. Lucy Cooper in the 11th minute, Kenny Thompson in the 38th, and Alicia Buckingham in the 85th minute mean that Bournemouth continue their 100% record, as do Exeter City last weekend, beating Southampton Women's by 8 goals to 1. Very convincing for Exeter City. Still no information though about the goal for Southampton Women. It just doesn't exist. But goals then for Exeter City. Jenna Markham in the 1st minute, hat-trick for Sarah Stacey, 51st, 69th and 76th minute. Ishbel Zermond in the 58th minute, and then you've got coming on the substitutes bench, Connie Pengelly in the 90th, Beth Ireland in the 91st, and then Phoebe Baker in the 93rd. So 3 goals in added time and only 1-0 at half time. So a ruthless second half performance for Exeter City. Keynsham Town beating Portishead Town by 3 goals to 2. Goals in this one then, Keynsham Town taking the lead, Hannah Price in the 28th minute before Portishead Town pegged them back and then went in front. Stella Morgan 49th minute, Emily Lindsay 52nd minute. Brooke Stirrup equalising again for Keynsham in the 77th minute, and then an own goal from Portishead 5 minutes from time is proved to be the game winner, and Keynsham Town get the 3 points. Torquay United 2, Abingdon 4. Abingdon finished this game with just 9 after Erin Hartigan, after scoring 2 goals in the 20th and the 39th minute, was sent off in the 55th. Sahara Osborne Ricketts sent off in the 70th, but Leah Francis had opened the scoring for Abingdon in just the 2nd minute. Megan Crawford also getting one in the first half. So Abingdon doing all their scoring in the first half. Amy Salter and Ellie Jane Bishop with the goals for Torquay United. But Abingdon getting their goal scoring done early, going down to 9, and then really trying to just hold on for the remainder of the game, which they are able to do. And then just one game in Division 1 South West from the weekend just gone. Exeter City against Chelsea. Exeter putting 14 past Chelsea. So 4 goals each here. There was an own goal in the 13th minute. Sarah Stacey then 17th, 41st, 66th and 79th. Connie Pengelly 20th, 22nd, 46th and 52nd. Jenna Markham in the 45th. 2 for Amber Pollock, 53rd and 59th minute. 1 for Matilda Franchi in the 82nd and 1 for Zoe Watkins in the 87th. So a very convincing 14-0 victory for Exeter City. What that means then for the table in South West, the only movement, Keynsham Town going up a place over Bridgewater United. But at the top, Exeter City a perfect 12 from 12. AFC Bournemouth a perfect 10 from 10. And Swindon Town, Moneyfields, Abingdon United all still trying to chase them down as best they can. Towards the bottom, a loss for Chelsea, a loss for Torquay, a loss for Southampton Women and a loss for Portishead Town. Means that everything stays the same towards the bottom as well. It's just one extra game has been ticked off. So it's very much a case of who's going to crack first at the top between Exeter and Bournemouth, and who's going to take those relegation spots. Portishead Town will be feeling with 2 wins clear of Torquay United that they've got a good chance of staying up now. Southampton Women's need to make those games in hand count if they are to drag themselves away from the bottom 2. But that finally will do it for the results over the past couple of weeks. Let's now then go through and look at the fixtures. We're going to start in the league, then we're going to move through into the cup. So Northern fixtures, mentioned it already earlier on in the show. Big one at Grange Park. Nottingham Forest against Burnley. Forest in 3rd, Burnley in 2nd. If Forest are able to win this game, then that really will. They'll leapfrog Burnley. Yes, Burnley will still have a game in hand, but Forest will leapfrog Burnley into 2nd and be right on the heels of Newcastle United. As I said, Newcastle United have tough games still to come in the back half of the season. Other game, Wolverhampton Wanderers against Stoke, 5th against 8th. One that Wolves really do need to win if they are to stand any chance of closing the gap to the teams at the top. Not out of it yet, because all those games in hand they have could drag them back into it, plus then those important games against the teams around the top. But just 2 games in the Northern Premier Division this weekend coming up. Southern Premier Division, also just 2 games. Milton Keynes Dons against Cheltenham Town and Plymouth Argyle against Oxford United. So MK Dons against Cheltenham is 6th against 7th. 2 very mid-table sides. Plymouth Argyle in 9th against Oxford United in 5th. Oxford probably a little bit too far back with 11 points gap and just 1 game in hand. A little bit too far back over Portsmouth to mount any kind of title challenge. So it's really a couple of mid-table sides again, because Plymouth are 8 points clear of the bottom 2. So there's no immediate danger for them either. Division 1 Midlands, we have 4 games this weekend, including a really important one at the top. Loughborough Lightning against Boldmere St Michael's. Both teams have played 12. Loughborough are 2 points clear of Boldmere. If Boldmere are to get the win in this one, they would go top. And then directly below them, Peterborough United in 3rd against Sporting Cowser in 4th. So this weekend really has the opportunity to either stretch out or close down that gap in Division 1 Midlands at the top. You think if Loughborough and Sporting Cowser are able to win, then Loughborough suddenly have themselves a 5-point gap at the top. Even if Peterborough United win, they'll have a 5-point gap at the top for Loughborough. So very important couple of games there. Down towards the bottom, Leek Town against Leafield Athletic is 9th against 12th. One of those again where if Leafield are able to get a victory, all of a sudden they pull themselves right back into the conversation about safety. Leek Town, if they're able to get the victory, particularly with Sheffield going away to Solihull Moors, who are in 6th, a victory for Leek Town could put them 8 points clear of the drop zone, and then they'll be starting to feel that they are much more comfortable with only 9 or so games to go. So important games at the top and the bottom of Division 1 Midlands this weekend. Division 1 North, only 3 games, but an important one again towards the bottom. Chester Street Town in 12th, FC United of Manchester in 11th. Neither side can get themselves out of the relegation zone with a win because of their inferior goal difference. However, say FC United of Manchester are able to get an away victory, they could be just 1 point away from safety. Chester Street Town if FC United Manchester wins, they would be level on points, but only in the relegation zone on goal difference. I'd highly doubt they're going to overturn a minus 37 to minus 1 goal difference in one game. Chester Street Town could get themselves within 1 point of safety, provided that Stockport County in 5th beat York City away from home. York City currently in 10th. Chorley in 7th against Doncaster Rovers Bells in 8th. The other game taking place in Division 1 North. Neither side really too far away from the relegation zone to deem themselves safe. And there is a 7-point gap that's opened up between Chorley in 7th and Leeds United in 6th. So the league table really is split in Division 1 North between teams fighting for the top and teams that are concerned about the drop over their shoulder. Division 1 South East then, 5 games taking place this weekend. AFC Sudbury against Worthing, 10th against 2nd in that one. Ashford Town in 5th against London Seaward in 8th. Chesham United in 9th against Haywards Heath Town in 12th. Another great opportunity for Chesham United there to get another victory under their belts and increase that gap further to the bottom two. Norwich City against Actonians, 3rd against 7th. Queen's Park Rangers against Cambridge City is 4th against 11th. So no real kind of huge clashes at the top, clashes at the bottom. Chesham United against Haywards Heath Town probably the closest to that. As I said, with Sudbury at home to Worthing, you would expect Worthing will probably get the job done there. And with Queen's Park Rangers hosting Cambridge City, again you would expect Queen's Park Rangers to take the 3 points. So a good opportunity for Chesham to increase the gap to 6 points if they're able to beat Haywards Heath Town. Division 1 South West, just 4 games taking place. Abingdon United against Bridgewater United is 5th against 7th. Keynsham Town against Torquay, 6th against 11th. Portishead Town in 9th against Moneyfields in 4th. And Southampton Women in 10th against Swindon Town in 3rd. So you've got kind of an upper half, lower half split in that one. If you take Abingdon against Bridgewater out, 2 mid-table teams. Keynsham Town in 6th, Torquay United down towards the bottom in the relegation zone. Portishead Town only, still looking over their shoulders somewhat against Moneyfields in the top 3rd. Southampton Women definitely looking over their shoulders against Swindon Town in the top 3 as well. So top versus bottom clashes in Division 1 South West this weekend. Not expecting to see a huge amount of change in the league table coming into next week's show. Moreover, it's just a change in the goal difference and another one notched up in the games played column. We are starting to get towards that point. Give it another 6 weeks or so where teams are getting down into the final half a dozen games and starting to look at where the points are going to come from if they're fighting against relegation. The reason that some of these games are missing is because of the Cup and Plate quarterfinals taking place this weekend. So some teams in action there, obviously therefore not able to play in the league. Cup and Plate quarterfinals still regionalised north and south. They only go national at the semi-final stage. So in the northern half of the draw, AFC Fylde hosting Newcastle United and Halifax against Huddersfield Town, all sides in the Northern Premier Division. And it's, I mentioned it when the second round happened, that the way that this has worked in the Cup this year, I think to recall the Cup last year, you've got the top sides in Tier 3 fighting it out. Here, you've got Newcastle United, top of the Northern Premier Division. You kind of expect them to be there. filed bottom of the Northern Premier Division. Then you've got Halifax and Huddersfield, who are 10th and 11th in the Northern Premier Division respectively. So in the northern half of the quarter-final draw, you've got the team at the top of the table and then the 3 teams at the bottom of the table, which almost says, well, Newcastle United will be in the semi-final. But out of Halifax and Huddersfield Town, that'll be an interesting one to see who gets through there and faces, well, whoever in the semi-final draw. Southern half is predominantly more what you would expect. Hashtag United second in the Southern Premier Division, although they're facing bottom club London Bees. And then Ipswich Town in 4th against Portsmouth in 1st. Much more what you'd expect in the Cup quarter-finals. But I think Newcastle definitely through. Hashtag United through. Portsmouth will probably have enough to get past Ipswich. Do not know which way Halifax and Huddersfield is going to go. And then, of course, we await the draw for the semi-finals because they go national at that point, and we wait to see who draws who. A Newcastle versus hashtag semi-final would be particularly interesting. And then finally the plate quarterfinals as well. Bit more of a mix here because of the odd tier 3 side that happened to get a bit of a difficult draw in the determining round, ended up losing and ended up in the plate competition. So again, north and south split. So in the north, Barnsley, top of Division 1 North against Hull City in 3rd, and Sutton Coldfield Town of Division 1 Midlands, currently going okay in Division 1 Midlands, 7th they are, against Derby County of Tier 3, 6th in the Northern Premier Division. And then in the southern half of the draw, you've got Billericay Town, who are 8th in the Southern Premier Division, against the so far perfect Exeter City, who are top of Division 1 South West. And then it's the Southeast Southwest clash in the other quarter-final with Cambridge United, who are currently 6th in Division 1 South East, travelling to Maidenhead, who are 8th in Division 1 South West. So those are the quarter-final ties. Again, it goes national at the semi-final stage, but the teams have really come up against teams that are equal to them, really, unlike in the Cup, where you've got top of the table against bottom of the table in a couple of occasions there. Barnsley in 1st, Hull City in 3rd. That'll be a great game. Maidenhead and Cambridge kind of equal in their respective leagues. Billericay Town doing okay in Tier 3, but Exeter City, they're a tier below, but they've been perfect so far. It'll be interesting to see how they do. And then Derby County, mid-table Tier 3, Sutton Coldfield Town, mid-table Tier 4. I mean, you would expect that Derby would get through that game. It's probably Derby's competition to lose, but obviously in Cup football, nobody really knows what's going to happen. So those games are taking place this weekend as well. So that will about do it for this week's Women's Football Chat. You can see there's plenty of red on the board behind me. We are getting into a heavy league action kind of period now. Once these cups are done, you've only got 2 teams left in the FA Cup, and you'll only have 4 teams left in both the Cup and the Plate competitions. So none of these league postponements. We will just be rattling through the league games week after week towards the end of the season now. Predictor League still ongoing. I'm doing appallingly, and if you do want to keep up to date with that, there is the link on the website, which is www.womensfootballchat.wordpress.com. But thank you very much for watching and or listening to this week's episode of the Women's Football Chat. Your support, as always, greatly appreciated. I'll be back next Thursday at 6 p.m, bringing you the very latest from the FAWNL. How will those league tables have changed over the course of the weekend? We'll have to find out together next week. So we'll be back next Thursday at 6 p.m. Goodbye.